Wall Street and lobbyists stuck by Donald Trump for years, through Charlottesville, through the caging of children, through the more than 390,000 Americans dead from the coronavirus. They flocked to his hotels, his properties, allowing Trump to profit off of the presidency. And they profited as well, thanks to Trump's humongous tax cuts for the super rich. But after last week's riot on Capitol Hill, they finally decided they're done. Companies from Deutsche Bank to the PGA to Shopify, the e-commerce company that the Trump organization and campaign online stores use, have cut ties with Trump and his company. And so have actual cities, from New York City to Palm Beach County. But it's the lenders Trump should be most worried about, where he could be on the hook for millions of dollars when several large loans he has personally guaranteed come due in the next 2 years. Meanwhile, it's not just Trump who's under fire. The backlash has spread to Trump's family as well. In a piece in Vanity Fair, Emily Jane Fox writes that after Trump's supporters staged an insurrection at the Capitol, Javanka's remaining social capital and the fear that accompanied it has dried up, says one former friend of Ivanka's. How do you associate yourself with the worst, most toxic people in U.S. history? I'm joined now by Emily Jane Fox, national correspondent at Vanity Fair, and Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University. I admit I'm fascinated with this, Emily, because the Trump, sire, he built up this brand that got him to be president. The fact that he was able to lie about being a billionaire, make himself seem super rich and really successful at real estate, gets him The Apprentice. The Apprentice gets him the presidency, and now because he then is himself and acts as himself, he's trashed that brand. But the kids actually don't have any other currency except that same surname. So walk us through how bad off, other than Javanka, who have their own money because, the hubby's a slumlord, how bad off are the grown children?
If you asked me 2 weeks ago, based on all of the people who I talked to about Jared and Ivanka, and I talked to a lot of people, and I have for the last 5 years about them and all of my reporting on the Trump family. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said they will be just fine. They will cash in on all the opportunities they spent the last 4 years creating in their time in the West Wing, as illegal and immoral as that was. And I think that Ivanka thought she had a bright political future, particularly in Florida. Over the last week, all of the sources who for the last 4 years continue to protect Ivanka and Jared, to me, people who wouldn't talk to me on the record or even on background about them, have now started changing their tune. Many of them are either talking to me for the first time or talking negatively about them to me for the first time. And to me, that doesn't signal that these people suddenly grew moral compasses or grew a spine, or that what happened last week in the Capitol was completely over-aligned to them. What that signals to me is that for the first time, there is no fear about the future of Jared and Ivanka. The power that they had, or the power that people believe they will have in the future, has completely dissolved, and the people who were protecting them or thought that they would be in business with them in the future no longer think that they are viable forces in the American economy or the American political landscape. It was a huge shift to me, and I think it's one that we will continue to see play out.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, they can be called Javanka all they want, but her last name is still Trump. Right? I mean, she didn't change her last name to Kushner, at least, her brand is out of the stores. You have Ivanka Trump's best friend coming out before and saying that why would you tell me to read a book about effing poor people? I remember Ivanka saying, what part of you thinks I would be interested in this? Like, everyone kind of guessed that they were bad people, but now they know they're bad people. But to you, Jason, Donald Trump himself is a broke person in addition to everything else. He can't anymore pay his adult fail sons to do stuff, whatever it is they did for him. He doesn't have any money, and he owes a bunch of money. He might get foreclosed.
Look, what I see right now is a situation where they're going to be capitalizing not just off their brand, because they don't really have a brand anymore, right? Like the Trump name is up there with like the Farmer Bro and Bill Cosby and Subway after the Jared scandal. Like it's in bad shape, right? Now the issue is, what do they really have to offer? Well, they're not going to sell out their own family, right? They're not going to do that because they think they can milk that. But you got to remember, Jared Kushner was highly unqualified, but was put in access to all sorts of secret information. Right? There's all sorts of secret information that they got access to that they can sell, that they can parlay around the world. What's going to be interesting is that, similar to Trump, is what's important to Trump's children? Is it important that they're still invited to cool parties when we get out of COVID? Is it important that they're still at the Grammys? Is it important that they're still at major events? Because that's done. That's done for a long time. But if it's just about making money, they can cash in on their access for a while. But that may not work for their father because he's got too many lawsuits coming his way.
Well, indeed. And also, you do wonder why Jared was in Saudi Arabia and running around the Mideast. Maybe that's what he was already starting to cash in. But, Emily, is that stuff important to them? I mean, we have these stories coming out that Melania Trump won't meet with Jill Biden, that Ivanka and Jared refused to let their own Secret Service detail use their 6 toilets. You could just go on and on and on. Stephanie Winston Walkoff, who was besties with Melania, saying she wouldn't move in until the Obama's toilet was gotten rid of. I mean, everything about this brand, this Trump brand, is trash. Do they care about that, or do they just care about money?
It's hard to just put into view how much they care about that. That is pretty much the sole thing that Ivanka has cared about her entire life, her image, her brand. She has spent the last nearly 40 years trying to craft that. And not only is it personally important to her, it's very important to her father what her brand looks like. You know, when you're born rich, when you have all of the money in the world, obviously making more money is very important to you, but all you care about is then amassing power from that money. And they may still have a lot of money. Jared Kushner has more money than you and I could ever dream about having, but they will not have the access to power that they've enjoyed so much their entire lives, and I think that will kill them every single day.
And to just throw some politics in, Jason Johnson, since you are, our political analyst and a political science guy, there was always this theory that Trump could then continue to wield power in the Republican Party. But his brand is garbage.
Right.
I wonder how much that's actually true now that no one wants to speak his name or donate to anyone at all involved with him.
Oh, look, politicians are single-minded seekers of re-election. That's a basic theory of political science. If there's any way that you can get some value from Donald Trump, these people will attach themselves to him. Even if he drags them under, even if he shames it. Look at Josh Hawley. Look at Ted Cruz. The only reason they're doing this is because they somehow think that Trump will sprinkle pixie dust and somehow allow Ted Cruz to be competitive in 2024, which is never going to happen. So, look, he'll still wield power in the party. And I don't think the Republican Party is going to split because you got way too many Republicans who are like, well, you know, as long as I have some tax cuts with my racism, I'm good with it, right? Like, he'll have that power. But what's going to end up happening is his track record is running up against his brand, right? That's what's hurting his businesses, but it's also hurting him politically. The people that Donald Trump endorses don't end up winning, and that's eventually going to make him less powerful within the party.
Yeah, indeed. Emily Jane Fox, Jason Johnson, thank you guys very much. Stay safe out there.